Alright, welcome back everybody to Culz Reviews episode 102. I know we've done well over 100 of these, I can't believe it either, but thank you guys for coming back and helping support us and allowing us to continue to talk movies, documentaries, and, shorts, fan films, everything that we've covered in this series. Today we are checking out Expedition Unknown, and this one actually has a reasoning because it's the anniversary upcoming of the disappearance of Flight 2501, a Northwest Airlines disappearance. And it's been missing for roughly some 70 plus years, and we wanted to watch that and at least give you guys an outlet to go watch and help keep those passengers' memories alive. There is a book, so kind of spoiler, come Wednesday you'll see a review for that book as well. But this is Expedition Unknown, Season 8, Episode 2. Joining me today is...
Sam.
Matt.
Now, Matt, is this the first time you've heard about this disappearance?
This one in particular, I can't recall it off the top of my head. If I've heard of it before, it's not stuck to memory that I recall off the top of my head.
Now, you actually, while watching this, said you might have flown with maybe Northwest Orient?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at one point in my life, in one flight, was Northwest.
Alright, so we got some connections there. Sam, is this the first time you've heard about the disappearance?
This would be the first time that I've heard about the disappearance of this plane. I did not know about that beforehand.
Yeah, personally for me too, when I first watched this episode, it was the first time I had heard about it as well, which then made me go out and buy the book, and we're here talking about today, Hopefully at some point we can actually go out to these locations and tell you a better, more in-depth story, but today we're at least going to tell you about the episode. So, Sam, is there anything that you kind of took away from this one?
I mean, it's crazy how, seeing from school how, aviation started to where it's at now, how you kind of, learn from mistakes, but that's kind of the principle of all of most of life, essentially, is your mistakes you learn from and get better about.
Matt, anything you took away from this episode?
Just learning more facts about lakes and how the currents shift, and that, even lakes, much like the oceans can go a lot deeper, but, Lake Michigan, there's a couple parts where it's over 1,000 feet deep, which, when you think of it, that's insane. That's pretty dang deep, and I didn't really think that much for lakes. I always thought a couple 100 feet maybe, but to know that Lake Michigan especially is over 1,000 feet deep in some areas is pretty intense. That's some serious depths. Yeah, over 1,000 feet in depth is just crazy to fathom for a lake. I don't know.
Yeah, you've been by the Great Lakes. Anyone that's been there, it's like seeing an ocean. You just see water as far as, you've been there when we were in Chicago as well. As far as you can see, it's just water. It's pretty crazy, some of these lakes, and, you say lake, but it's an ocean. There's a lot of big shipwrecks that have gone down in these lakes. And I think also with the disappearance of the flight, it makes it a lot harder to find given the size of the lake, the depths of the lake, and how big the debris probably is, if there's anything left.
Well, and not much like the Titanic, because the Titanic was a long time ago, but water does eat away at eventually the corrosion and not evaporation, but just disintegration of the ship too. Every year is another piece is gone, so time is of the essence, and if they're going to find it, it needs to be pretty quick, otherwise you're not finding much.
Or further buried and can be pushed along by the depth current too. But with lakes, I don't think it's as crazy as ocean currents can be, just because it is very vast, but it's not nearly as intense.
Well, and I'll say as far as debris, I know, having read the book, there's the descriptions of them finding material, and as I read that portion, I honestly wondered if there was anything left in the plane. It almost sounded like the plane just disintegrated. upon impact, explosion, whatever happened. So hopefully we can find something. You know, they've been able to use, at least here we see them using like Heinz casting, where they're using weather and ocean currents to kind of map out. And that's given them kind of this search radius. Now, Valerie's done it for 15 years, 10 of those. She had the help of Clive Cussler's team, who was out there as well. And it's just been something that no one can find.
Right, and you're fact checking this. This is based off the episode. It's obviously been, I think, another year or two has passed, maybe a few more. So Valerie may be approaching 20 years current time searching for this wreckage.
Yeah, because I think this came out in 2020, and I know she had taken a brief kind of
Sabbatical time.
so, yeah, where there were some other shipwrecks that she was finding. But as of 2020, the team's back out there searching again. Unfortunately, still have not found anything. It's still an ongoing mystery, you know, and unfortunately it's just weather. You know, we know what caused it, we just don't know where it is. You know, the story behind the plane is they're going from LaGuardia Airport, which is an airport I've been to. It's in New York City, and the flight's going pretty well up until they're getting over Lake Michigan, and they're at least experiencing some turbulence at this point. They probably see the wall of clouds, and the fact that they're so far south probably means they were trying to go further south to get away from this storm. But the squall had changed from going kind of easterly like this when they had the weather forecast given to them. And I think it was like every 4 hours they get this weather forecast. But it changed to going like this. And it was going southern instead of eastern. And so, but I think
Flew right in.
they flew right into it. And I think the thing that's interesting that you find out in the episode is it sounds like the plane turned around and was trying to go back to
Unless it saw a different plane.
But
Or if
then
the
too,
two
and how
planes
great is
collided.
people's directions and everything, and it's all an algorithm. There's a science to it. They'll figure it out someday.
I think you would know if it's flying this way or this way, though. The airplane would be two different ways. If it's flying towards you,
But what if you're not sure where exactly you were standing? Like, I mean, we get sometimes like, oh no, I was facing this. Oh wait, no, I was facing this way, and then that means, oh no, the plane was going to the west, or it was going to the. I mean, that's what I'm just saying is maybe the eyewitness just
perception
forgot
of
what
it.
direction he may have been looking, because you witness something so big and so, you know, kind of traumatic in a sense, but just maybe you forgot what direction you were really looking, because like you said, it's a massive body of water. I mean,
It
you're
is.
looking at,
And the distance could be
Water,
off too.
and the
Because it
distance,
said
yeah.
it could have
So-
been closer, but it
I
could
mean,
have been further
yeah,
away.
you see a lightning strike and you're like, oh, that's like, was just right there, but then when you listen to the thunder, it's like, oh, well, shoot, according to the thunder, that lightning was 15, 20 miles away, and it wasn't a mile away. So, you know, I mean, again, being an eyewitness back then, if you saw a big flash, would it not be the same, waiting for to hear something to be like, you know what, I didn't hear it till so much often. But then in the lightning storm too, are you hearing thunder? Are you hearing an explosion? You know, it's I don't know.
And I know, because in the book it goes into detail about different witnesses and kind of building what the storm was like for people on the ground. And this was actually waking a lot of people up. Like, it was such a bad storm, people were getting woken up because of the wind, the thunder, and a lot of people too on top of that got woken up by a low flying airplane. And it scared them because they thought it was so low it was crashing. And then there were some people, like you said, that did tell people that they heard a boom. And so they knew it had crashed, but they just didn't know where.
Well, at one point, I think its lowest, I think they were asking to fly almost at like 1,500 feet,
2,500.
2,500 feet, which is pretty low for an aircraft.
That's really.
I mean, given the fact, I think they were already flying in at like 3,500 4,000 feet.
Well, plus
Somewhere
like
in there.
the height of the water, I think is 600 feet. So yeah, you're roughly about 1,600 feet difference at that point.
So, I mean, yeah, it leaves a very interesting, just play out in your head of like, this plane really could be anywhere, and I don't know. I mean, I see the intrigue behind it, why people want to find it, and why it's getting not your treasure hunters, but your wreckage hunters out there to find it and bring peace to everyone. And I don't know. It might be cool if I didn't have such a paranoia of being on water. I may want to join in an expedition someday to see what we could find.
You're talking about like perhaps what caused the flight or caused the accident. When Josh is writing on the DC-4 that is shown in the episode, he talks to the pilot, and they're talking either the turbulence got so bad, and we heard that it could have been up to 100-mile-per-hour winds, plus lightning and thunder, or
Downdraft.
yeah, or the downdraft hit them, and they're just at a point they're too low to recover. And DC-4s were known to kind of flip over in that situation, and at that point, if you're below a certain range, you're not going to recover. And
So I wonder if the dude thought it was going to east because it flipped,
maybe.
and he just saw the plane going in that direction, but didn't know it was upside down.
Yeah. Well, and then
But
it
even
also,
then, like once it crashes into the water, there's a chance, like with that high wind, it could have drifted a ways before even.
really crashed.
Yeah.
Then it also brings to light too, back then, in my opinion, I don't know, things seem to have been built a little bit better. They used more solid material. So them just saying it completely broke apart and scattered, over all this, I question it, because you see some of the ship wreckage they find in this episode, and it's built really well. Unlike today, where we use material that doesn't necessarily.
It's not meant to last.
Right. I mean, it's built well, but yeah, it's not going to last. I mean, when you just think of it. So I'm not sure on that. I mean, I would think you're going to find more of a ship, or not a ship, but an airliner intact, especially since they said the percentage is 10% of it has been found, 90% is kind of still missing. And this is going off of the episode. Today, there might be a higher percentage of it found, but we're looking at 90% of an aircraft still missing. So,
True. But aircrafts are not with the same material because they have to be kind of lighter than ships. Like ships are built with more solid metals and more kind of stronger metals than aircrafts technically are.
So we're going to have to go to Washington so we can put our hands on one of the other 5 remaining DC-4s because it's in the Museum of Flight. So we can actually give you guys the facts on that. We don't know what it's.
True. Have one over at Wings of the Rockies.
No, I mean I actually
They
looked.
did make them kind of heavy back then.
Yeah. Well, I think as far as what you're going to find depends on what happened. I mean, if a lightning bolt and it collided in the air and then it exploded, you might not find a lot, or it's going to be super spread out. If you're hitting the water at 400 miles per hour and it just shears everything apart, probably, I mean, personally, I don't know if they're going to find it.
And going off of some of the stuff you said you've done from previous research, when there was in the book, they would find an ear, they would find a belly button. That's a sign that like bodies were destroyed like in horrific ways in this. So was there an explosion? Are you really going to find full bodies intact or anything like that?
Just something tangible.
I mean, or did it literally blow up? And like Sam said, your debris field now is not just here, it's like 50 miles of wreckage or 20 miles, like I'm just using
A ballpark.
a ballpark, but I mean, it could be a very large piece, and they might find pieces everywhere, but you may not find that solid piece. I mean, it's hard to say.
No, I would definitely agree on that. Like, it's without knowing the precise details, like the one gentleman that witnessed it said he saw a flash like it was an explosion. And if it was an explosion, especially with whatever the planes were made of, and like a combustion system, that could have been incinerated. So like what they found is what they found, and that's kind of it. It's weird some of the luggage survived though, if it was an explosion.
Well, yeah, that's where, as far as where the explosion happened, because there's a lot of witnesses that saying they saw something, so we know something happened. But did it happen in the air, or there's the fact that when the engines hit the cold water, they exploded?
Mm-hmm.
And so did it happen much, much lower? But, I mean, in the episode, as far as kind of going back to what Matt said about how just devastating this was, they actually showcase a suit jacket that had been worn by somebody on the flight that had just been blown off.
Yeah.
Which is,
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy. I mean, it's a big tragedy that there's no real kind of finality to. I mean, there's 2 memorials now. There are 2 memorials now where they've found that some of this human remains that they kind of drilled up, they put in 2 different graves in different cities because they were going all over. I mean, in one city they actually had to close off the beaches because they didn't want people seeing it. And yeah, so I mean, to find something would be good for families and to know where it happened. Because I mean, at the end of the day, 55 passengers and 3 crewmen went missing. And their families, which we had 3 on here, 3 members of the Scoog family, who at least wanted to know something. You know?
Yeah.
So be it for them.
It's just that wanting that, I guess, that official seal of closure, having closure. But I think finding your loved ones, artifacts that they found, what was a suitcase, or they found something of his, you accept the reality. He's gone.
Yeah, he knew right away. He said it was one of the first ones pulled up.
Yeah. But I'm just saying is you accept that reality. Where they found the suitcase, I would assume this is where, this is where I'm going to call his grave. If his body floated out 5, 10, 20 feet down the lake, is it really going to matter that much? I mean, like they kind of said, Lake Michigan is their final resting space. That exact location, we don't know. But will we ever?
I wonder, just because of, I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of the talk. I mean, if you want to know a little bit of the timeline of the episode, Josh does get to go to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and he gets to go see wearing the right colors and everything like that. But he gets to go see a museum where a lot of this NWA stuff is showcased as far as their history starting out. Much like most airplane companies, they just delivered the mail, and then they started, flying passengers, and it was very expensive. I mean, $90 then, how much is that today? Especially just one way. You can get to New York, well, our Chicago flight, both ways was like $84 when we went. So, I mean, that tells you, I mean, they showed...
It was truly a luxurious thing. I mean, airfare was not for the nimble. It was, you were wealthy if you were flying in a plane, or your family was flying in a plane. There are people who'd be women and children, their wife, their kids, all flying. I mean, back then you do the math, that's some pretty expensive stuff. We're looking at what, at 90 some bucks a person, that's what, 2,700, or not 27, 270 for a family of 3. I mean, that's a lot back then.
Yeah, after that, we get to see a working DC-4, one of the 6 remaining ones. There's, I think, I did some research, and I think there is 2 in Africa that actually still actively fly people. So maybe we have to go to Africa to go fly.
I'm in, let's go. Africa, here we come.
Right, and then we go to Lake Michigan. We meet Valerie Van Heest and her husband Jack, and kind of go over their expedition and showcasing their history with Clyde Cussler. And then they go out, they find a shipwreck, it's a barge. And then he goes back to Noah. They don't play the Super Bowl there, unfortunately. We were bummed about that. But then we do learn a little bit more about Heinz casting and where the wreck might be. And it is in that kind of remaining quadrant that they haven't fully searched. So it gives you hope that that's where the airplane could be. They do find an airplane part at almost 300 feet, but it's not the right airplane.
Right, it's one that it just, a piece fell off a plane, which happens a lot more frequently today than back then too. Again, and that goes based off how well stuff is built anymore. A lot of stuff is not built to last because in today's world they want you to keep buying and upgrading and keep buying and upgrading, and it's amazing how many planes back then could still actually take off and how many planes like currently that can't take off anymore.
Or where you see we've had a lot in Denver where the engines are they're going and then they just like break apart before they've even taken off.
Yeah, well, shoot, and a lot of it is on Boeing right now. Like, look at how many planes in the recent couple weeks. I mean, again, I still feel safer flying in a plane right now today than I do driving on the roads. Just because percentages and
There's a lot
numbers,
less planes.
right? But it still then sits in the back of your head like, shoot, planes are literally falling apart, doors are getting blown off.
There still have gone missing recently.
Yeah. So it still lingers in the back of your head like, well, that's when you start looking at the passengers like, man, there ain't no way this flight's going down. We got a nun, we got a child, we got a blind person. We're staying alive. But I don't know. Like I said, I know people, and don't say it, don't do it, because I know you do. You look at your fellow passengers, and you right away make that judgment call. Oh yeah, we'll be fine, you know. Or it's a bunch of sinners coming back from Vegas, and it's like, yeah, this flight's disappearing somewhere over the Nevadas or the Sierra.
So I will say on Flight 2501, there was a priest, a father that got on the airplane. He was actually late. And they had given his seat to somebody else. But right before they took off, he had got there, and they had to get that one guy off the plane and get him on. And one of the other passengers was pregnant, flying to meet her husband to tell him that she was pregnant. He never found out. No one could bring themselves to tell him.
Yeah, like I said, it's just that thing that you never know. I mean, you can count your blessings or look at it as, oh, there ain't no way, but you never know. And that's the sad reality is you never know.
And I think when you guys will see the book review on Wednesday, but something I said there was you read stories like this and you just learn more about how precious life is and how quickly it can go away, and just appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate everything you got when you got it. Yeah, so I guess, Sam, final thoughts on this episode.
It's quite interesting. Final thoughts is, I know they found that one part that was like kind of on the surface, but what about the other parts that were kind of buried? Is that from the same plane wreckage or from the one that they were looking for that never went back to check? Or if they did, who knows?
They may be keeping it a mystery because, no, I agree. They said they found which looked to be a larger path of debris, but they only brought up one piece.
Well, because they're running out of time because they only got 20
Well, I'm
minutes.
just saying, like you said, though, I mean, why not go back down then and just double check? You found a very large path according to the blueprints.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not, again, and I know oxygen costs, but if this is your chance to make this massive discovery, why not go back down and move yourself a little bit? Because they said they did go off course a little bit. Readjust your boat, get your oxygen, everything like that. I don't know how long it takes to do your deep dives because they were talking about how you have to get your body re-regulated as you climb slowly. Decompress. But why not go back down then a month later, 2 months later, and just recheck that area because maybe you found the new part, but just 100 feet away is the wreckage, and you've got your gold mine. You found it.
Mm-hmm. And they might have. I mean, there's a very good chance that maybe they did go back. And I know one thing Valerie wanted to do was try to notify the kin first because they didn't get that the first time. They had to learn from TV. Well, some of them learned from paparazzi just knocking on their door saying, your family member died, we want to take a picture of you. And
a
so,
snap before you even get a chance to react. You're like, wait, what?
yeah, so I know she wanted to take the time to notify them before. So yeah, I mean, it's been 4 years. Maybe they've found something by now. Maybe they're taking their time. Hopefully at some point we can come to you guys with a breaking news story that it's been
I mean,
found.
shoot, anymore in today's world, you'll find out on social media before anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, they've had pictures of car accidents where you're like, huh, that looks like my uncle's car, and then come to find out, oh, it was my uncle's car. I'm just saying that there is no reality of that personal, I don't know what I'm talking about, just being able to find out a natural way. You find out on the TV. I mean, not that it's the same thing, but players sometimes find out they're traded on the news before the coach even comes in and says, hey, by the way, we traded you. The media is engulfed in everything anymore, and I think the media likes to be the bearer of bad news. They love to push those stories of sadness, trauma, just, I don't know. But it's the world we live in today, and I think back then, if we had the same technology today, like you kind of said, family members would have found out long before they got a knock on the door saying, hey, your loved one's plane went down.
I mean, we could look at it sort of in a way like the recent Titans, where the media went about a certain way, maybe it's protocol, where a lot of people knew the explosion had happened. But for days they went on about, they heard knocking, which James Cameron, I know, did his recent interview, which is, he said you're going to hear the shipwrecks, and there's like 11 in that area before you hear a small little hammer on something. And he's, you know, once they kind of got the data that first day, about the sound of an explosion, they knew what had happened. And so, yeah, I mean, like you said, the media does what it does, and yeah, don't do it. It's not good. Let's be better. Matt, any takeaway or any final thoughts on this episode?
I mean, it was informative. I always enjoy when I learn something new, and like I said, not just learning about the flight, but the ocean and the way the currents work and the weather in the area, and how everything kind of is that perfect mixture of chaos, and it created chaos, and because of it, today, 74 years later almost, we're still looking for a downed airplane. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I would say, yeah, check it out if you get a chance. It was very informative, and yeah.
Would you rate it?
I don't know, I learned something, so I'm going to go maybe 8.5 on it. I mean, it wasn't bad. I didn't find myself getting bored with it at any point. It kept me intrigued the whole time, so I gave it 8.5.
Yeah, I'd say a solid 8.5 as well. It's really good. I love the Expedition Unknown anyway. I think it's always good to learn about stuff that, it's kind of what we want to do, is tell stories that aren't being told as much. So I appreciate that. I think it's well done, and it's getting the word out to people about this tragedy that not a lot of people know about, especially our age, you know. And pair that with the book, and you got a really good 1-2 punch. Sam, what about you?
I'll have to agree with 8.5. It was very informative. It was something different. They didn't know of any other plane crashes, and they found the one from like 2004 or something else. Like, because I thought they said that plane went down too.
Just the engine.
Just the engine of the plane. So there's other things that were mentioned that nobody knows about. So who knows what else is down there, and plus in any other body of water or forests, as far as we know. There's a lot of unsolved stuff around the entire world.
Well, and I know one thing that about the bomb in the ocean, when they were doing this in the book, they talked about they found the shape of a plane. And they were like, or what could have been the crash of a plane, because it looked like that. So they dove down, and it turned out to be like iron pieces that someone had just discarded. That was the right size and shape of a plane. And it's just like, it's frustrating, like how much stuff's down there too from humans.
Yeah. A large part of the ocean and lakes and any really body of water, it's a dumping grounds for the mankind.
Yeah, there's a lot of boats down there that they were like, it cost too much to scrap, so they were just like, oh, it sank.
But now that metal is precious and you get big money for it.
Yeah,
but
but
it's not worth going down and cleaning.
yeah, I
it,
think the
so-
price to bring it up might outweigh like what you'd get. But yeah, that's our review. It's something we wanted to do today because the anniversary of the disappearance is coming up, and we wanted to give you guys the time to go watch it or read about it and just learn some history. And that's something we love to do. If you guys want more Culz reviews, click the link over Matt. We've done over 100, so you got your option. Over Sam's going to be more stuff from us. I mean, there was a recent interview with Thomas Fears, an actor from Colorado who played Brushy Bill, was in a Ghostbusters film. And also, don't forget to like and give us a
Subscribe.
And switch the notification bell from personalized to all if you want to be notified on all of our videos.
And let us know, is there an episode, movie, or TV show you want us to review? Tell us in the comments below.